When most gamers hear the words brutally difficult boss, their minds immediately jump to Fromsoftware games. Dark Souls, Bloodborne, and Elden Ring have made frustration into a celebrated design philosophy. But let's not kid ourselves, grueling, soul-crushing boss fights existed long before these games came out. There's a rich history of legendary encounters across all genres that didn't need a parry button or iframe dodge to make players suffer. This isn't about the usual suspects, no Ornstein and Smog, no Millennia. This is about the hidden monsters, the unpatched nightmares, and the unfair but iconic battles that shaped gaming long before FromSoft became the face of pain. Let's talk about some of the hardest bosses in gaming history. And as always, I want to hear from you down below what you think the hardest boss in video game history is. Let me know. And let's get into the video.
You are already dead. Your courage will fail.
Kathun from World of Warcraft was never going to be beaten, at least not in the state he launched. When players finally reached him at the end of the Temple of Ahn'Qiraj in 2006, what they encountered was not just a difficult boss, but a fundamentally broken one. His mechanics were mathematically impossible to overcome. He had eye beams that bounced from player to player across the raid room, and these dealt exponential damage, and it made it nearly impossible to survive more than a few seconds. If you made it past that phase, which required pixel-perfect positioning and instant reflexes from all 40 players in the raid, Kathun would then swallow players into his stomach, a phase where you had to fight off adds while coordinating simultaneous damage inside and out. All of this occurred while dealing with healing restrictions, unpredictable tentacle spawns, and a tight DPS check. And just when guilds thought they had a strategy, his regeneration and unpredictable mechanics would crush their hopes. Top raiding guilds, with players who had conquered everything up to that point, simply gave up. Forums lit up with theories and complaints. Blizzard eventually confirmed what many suspected. Kathun was literally unkillable in his original form. The developers had made a miscalculation in his tuning. He wasn't just hard, he was technically impossible. After several weeks, Blizzard nerfed him, dialing back damage and simplifying certain phases. Even then, he remained one of the most difficult raid bosses in MMO history. Kathun wasn't just a fight, he was a moment, proof that player ambition could sometimes outpace developer expectations. Shao Kahn in Mortal Kombat 2 wasn't just hard, he was infuriating. Most fighting game bosses in the arcade era were designed to be cheap, rigged to take your quarters. But Shao Kahn went above and beyond. His AI would read your inputs in real time. The moment you pressed a button, he had already begun countering it. He was faster than most characters, hit harder. His shoulder charge could juggle you into oblivion, and his hammer attack was uninterruptible. Block strings didn't work, combos would drop for no reason. There was no consistent strategy other than exploiting AI flaws, and even then, he would often outpace you. He also taunted you constantly. His gravelly voice, "You weak, pathetic fool," burned into your brain every time he landed a hit. It wasn't just a fight, it was psychological warfare. And when you lost, which you would do repeatedly, he would laugh, standing over your character like a smug titan. Beating Shao Kahn was a rite of passage, not just in arcades, but on home consoles as well. He represented the kind of difficulty that didn't just challenge your reflexes, but tested your resolve. In an era before difficulty sliders and practice modes, Shao Kahn was the final wall between you and victory. And more often than not, he won.
It all began with a stone, or so the legend says.
So we've already talked about one very difficult raid boss, let's talk about one more. And if you think raid bosses are hard, meet Absolute Virtue, a boss in Final Fantasy XI so legendarily difficult that it went undefeated for nearly 2 years after its introduction. He was the ultimate super boss in the Chains of Promathia expansion and was meant to be tackled by alliances of players. The fight itself was a cascading nightmare of mechanics pulled from previous boss encounters. Massive HP pools, ability spam, and unpredictable status effects. He could charm your entire party, interrupt casting, one-shot tanks, and teleport around the battlefield. On top of that, he had a frustrating ability to regenerate large chunks of health, undoing hours of hard work in minutes. The Final Fantasy XI community responded with forums full of theories. Some believed there were secret weapons or quests that had to be completed first. Others thought it required some obscure trigger mid-fight. Square Enix, for their part, offered only cryptic messages saying the boss was designed to test coordination and skill. Eventually, players managed to defeat Absolute Virtue, but only after several patches that adjusted his behavior, and even in his nerfed state, he remained brutally difficult. The sheer length of the battle, many attempts lasting over 12 hours, and its punishing mechanics made him one of the most controversial and unforgettable encounters in MMO history. Long before modern difficulty spikes, Mike Tyson's Punch-Out gave players one of the most infamous final bosses of the 8-bit era. And unlike many NES games that were hard because of bad controls or glitches, Tyson was perfectly designed, impossibly fast, brutally strong, and entirely fair. The fight begins with a punch that knocks you out instantly. No warm-up, no tutorial. If you're not ready, it's over. The rest of the fight is a masterclass in pattern memorization and precise timing. You need to learn exactly when to dodge, when to counter, and how to conserve your stamina. Tyson doesn't make mistakes. If you do, you're done. What's even more impressive is that Punch-Out gives you no special tools or upgrades. You're Little Mac, a tiny underdog with the same moveset from the start of the game. Victory is entirely based on execution. Beating Tyson wasn't just a goal, it was a badge of honor. It meant you had mastered one of the hardest tests in reflex-based gaming at the time. For decades, Tyson has remained a symbol of NES-era toughness. He's still referenced today as one of the best designed and most punishing boss fights ever made. If you played Undertale like a good person, you might never meet Sans in battle. But choose violence, pursue the genocide route, and you'll be forced into a fight that turns the entire game on its head. The battle begins before you can even act. Sans immediately hits you with a flurry of bones, breaking all expectations of turn-based RPGs. Unlike other enemies, he dodges your attacks. He inflicts constant damage through a unique mechanic called KR, or Karma, and his attacks come in brutally fast, randomized waves that require platforming-level reflexes to dodge. The fight includes over 20 unique attack phases. There's no healing between turns, no breaks to regroup. Your only chance is to survive, learn each pattern by heart, and execute them perfectly. All the while, Sans chats with you, sarcastically commenting on your choices, making it clear that this isn't just a boss fight, it's judgment. What elevates the encounter is its emotional and narrative weight. Sans knows what you did. He's not just a difficult opponent, he's the game's moral compass, throwing everything he has at you to stop your rampage. Winning doesn't feel good, it feels like a tragedy. For many, the Sans fight is one of the most uniquely challenging and unforgettable encounters in modern gaming. It requires mechanical mastery, but it also delivers on the promise of storytelling through gameplay. While Fromsoftware may dominate the discord around difficult bosses these days, they're far from the only source of pain in gaming. Across genres, from fighting games to MMOs, 8-bit classics to indie gems, developers have been testing player skills and patience for decades. The bosses we covered aren't just hard, they're milestones. They test reflexes, strategy, and endurance. They force players to grow, adapt, and sometimes rage quit. And in the end, they stay with us, not just as challenges, but as stories we pass down like digital legends. So the next time someone says Melania is the hardest boss of all time, remind them of Absolute Virtue's healing phase, Shao Kahn's mind-reading AI, or Sans' Bone Barrage intro. Difficulty didn't start with Souls, and it probably won't end there either. Hey, thank you so much for watching. I always appreciate you spending some time with me. If you enjoyed the video, make sure you go down, like, subscribe, and maybe hit the notification bell if you want more videos like this. Thank you as always for watching. I love you, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.